good. Okay. It's at that point where it's 11:04, but really it's 11:05. So, welcome everyone to our meeting. This is our second week. Well, is it second week or first week? I'm not sure how that
Second.
counts. Second week. And I mean, I would like to thank you all not only for coming here again for the second week, but completing your second week of school. I know it's very difficult, especially university with everything going on. It's very difficult to keep things under track and under roll. But I would like to thank you all for coming. Today we have a lot of interesting stuff in store. Today we're going to do some exploitation this week. Specifically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exploitation with a WordPress server using Kali, and we're going to go learn a little bit of some exploitation tools and what to do and all other important stuff. And we're also going to RJ is going to also do exploitation with this exploitative software called Empire, and he's going to do that on a Windows machine. So, yeah. Let's see. Let me try to share my screen. But yeah. Okay, quick question to everyone here. How familiar are you guys with Kali? Or do you guys even know what Kali is?
Never heard of it.
Well, if you're very new to this, Kali is an operating system that's based on ethical offensive security. It's a operating system that's based on Linux, which is an open source operating system that mainly just has a lot of tools that's used for offensive security. And today we're going to use Kali to break into this WordPress server that's called Basic Pen Testing. Let me move my camera over here. And with here, this is Basic Pen Testing 1. You can get this from VulnHub. VulnHub has a huge suite. I'll post that in chat for you guys. But VulnHub is a huge suite of different VMs, different options that you guys can do to challenge yourself and to learn more about offensive security, to break into these systems, and to learn what it's like doing that on the red team side. So today I will show, and I will teach you how to do this on this VM. So I don't know. Have anyone guys been very familiar at all with Linux at all, or is it just very new, never been touched before?
I use Ubuntu full time, and I've used Kali a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit. Well, with this basic pen testing 1, this is Ubuntu 16.04, so it's a little bit old. It's not the newest version, but it's still at times you can still see it out in the wild and still being used today. But what we're going to do for our first testing, let's see, we can log into our Kali machine first. We're going to log into that. But with this one, it's already booted up. So we're on the splash screen. We see the username Marlon Spike. We're going to try to exploit it with our Kali machine. So let's see. First, what I'll do is we must check the connections first to see, like, okay, what IP address is this running on? And with setting this up, it's the Kali VM and the basic pen testing VM are all on the same network. So they're all on the same address space, which is in a real world scenario maybe a lot more different, but in our scenario they're all on the same network. So So we can see here that the IP address is 192.168.217.129. So we're gonna remember that.
Cordell, are you sharing your screen right now?
Yes, is my screen frozen or is it?
I can't see it all.
You can't see it at
There's
all.
an option C. Oh wait, no, mine's because I'm on web browser. My bad.
Oh, okay. Is anyone able to actually see my screen?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
you're
that's just
good.
me. My bad.
Okay. All right. So we remember that the IP address was, let's see, 192.168.217.129. Okay. So we're on Kali, and my Kali, I've used the OVA. I didn't boot from scratch, so because I just wanted to do it out of the box, and I'm checking my IP address on Kali, and I can see that my IP address on this network is 217.128. So literally one point difference. So to get started, we're gonna start by, in order to start up this software tool that we're gonna use that is called Metasploit, we need to first start up Postgres Sql. So in order to do that, let me just zoom everything up. See here, zoom everything up, and then my keyboard's a little bit weird, so I'm gonna try to zoom in a little bit differently like that. See if anyone can see that more clearly. But we're gonna have to start up this database called Postgres SQL. Postgres SQL is a database that Metasploit uses to properly organize its exploitations, its payloads, and all that other stuff. So first we need to start it. We're going to start it by typing the command systemctl, which is a command that specifically used for starting up programs. And then we use our program name, which is Postgres SQL. And then we do start. Let's see. Typed it incorrectly. No command comment.
You need to do the action in the middle.
Oh. Still not doing that. And I'm typing it incorrectly. Okay. Okay, so it's asking for my password because I didn't use sudo in the beginning. Just use it. And it will come back empty-handed. So I want to check to verify that it started properly without any errors. So I'm going to again use systemctl, this time using status and this same program, Postgres SQL. And then it says active, success. That's what we want, which is really good. So now we're going to do start up Metasploit by typing this command, msf console. I use sudo because later on, there's some programs that require a root, and using sudo with msf console helps not have any issues in the future. Typing my command again, my password, and it will load up with a splash screen. I know there's a you could type MSF console, I think it's U or P, where it won't load up the splash screen. So if you're coming back in and you don't want to wait for this splash screen to load up, you don't have to.
Tac Q.
I think tac Q. Yeah. So Postgres SQL is loaded. So Metasploit is a very useful exploitation platform. And in order for us to get started to attacking this this box over here, we need to first do some reconnaissance to see what stuff is open. We need to do some research to learn what stuff is open on this box. So we're going to use a little program called Nmap. And with Nmap, what it does, it's more of a reconnaissance program that scans specific. It can scan for a specific host. It can scan for what stuff is running on that computer. It can scan even more specific than that. But what we're going to use it for right now is we're going to see what stuff is running on that system. So in order to do that with us right now, we're going to do a command called db nmap. So it's database nmap. And then we're going to do tac ss, because I think that's a sync attack. I'm not exactly sure, sync attack. But we're going to do that. And then the IP address, recall from before, is 192.168.217.1129. So 192.168.217.129. And now the nmap is started. So we see that 3 ports are open: port 80, port 21, and then port 22. Port 80 is HTTP, so that's more like websites and like websites that the box may have open. Port 21 is more file transfer, so it may have like a file server running on that server as well. And then port 22 is SSH, where we could use that to log in to the shell of the box. So we're gonna cover 2 today, and we're gonna cover exploiting it through the website that's open. That's the open port 80, and we're also gonna exploit it through FTP, through the file service that it has open. But first, we're gonna start with through the website, because it's more interactive that way. So what we know for a fact that it has a website open, because TCP port 80 is open, right? So what we're gonna do under Kali is we're gonna load up Firefox. And please don't be afraid to ask questions, because I know I may be going a little bit fast, or if you want me to slow down, please let me know, and I will explain to the best of my ability. So we have Firefox loaded. Let's see what it's gonna do. Okay, so that's fine. You don't need to worry. So we're going to try to go into that website, right? We're gonna do HTTP 192.168. It's already autofilling for us, and 127.129. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna do right here. So it comes back saying it works. This is a default web page for the server. The web server is running, but no content added yet. So this is just a boring splash screen. So, when we're loaded like this, right? There is, as like when you get into more like competitions or even the real world scenarios, usually with websites, with the search engine, you can actually have it act like the index of like a file explorer. So like, or like a file. So like, let's say we're trying to search for something. We could search for, let's see, home.html. We're going to just use the search engine first to try to search for like common names for sites, right? So like home.html. Okay, wasn't found. But we also, what we know now that it's running Apache. And, well, we already know that it's running on port 80. But we know now it's running Apache 2.4.8. So we can, even if we want to go to a different route, we could go a different route exploiting Apache 2.4.18. But we're going to go, let's say, admin.html. See, that wouldn't load either. And then, like, another common one is secret, which you can see that loads up. And we can see that it loads up to a WordPress site. But let's say in the case that it doesn't do that, and we have to figure out what other sites there are, because there's situations where this is pretty easy, obviously, but there's other situations where things can be a lot more promiscuous and difficult. So in that case, when situations like that happen, what we can do to help with this situation, like say WordPress is more difficult, we can load up a program called Wmap, which is pretty much like a web scanner. It scans through through the site and see if there's any like hidden pages that are not supposed to be publicly seen, but are still, you're still able to access, right? So we're going to do that by typing in here into the Metasploit window. We're going to type in here load wmap. And it's a success, which is good. And then we're going to so wmap has a whole configuration set up before you actually are able to run it properly. Okay? So first what we need to do is we need to have it know where we want it to target. So in order for us to do that, we need to type in here wmap, typing in random gibberish, wmap, say sites, tac A, so to assign it a site. And then we're gonna do space http 192.168.217.129 site created. And let's see. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a specific index in that site to target by typing in the command wmap underscore target targets tac t, and then http / 192.168.217.129, and we're going to do a / and we're going to do index.html. Boom. Now that's added. So now once we added those two, we need to have wmap load up a list of possible modules that it can use in this scan. So we're going to do that by typing in wmap run tac t. So this is going to take a little minute because it needs to load up and figure out what stuff it can do, what modules it can particularly load in order to be able to accurately assess what pages are on that site, because there can be many different modules and many different things running on this site, which it will take a moment. And I know so far, I don't know if anyone has any questions or not.
So just to clarify, wmap is quite simply mapping us to the web page in question, the server in question.
Yes.
And then it's just enumerating it automatically.
Yes. It's trying to figure out and find from that site what pages are available on that site. That's that you can see that's available, because in a real scenario, there may be sites that you may not be allowed to see, but it's publicly available by negligence or just lack security. And it may not be as easy as just what we did, which type in secret, because secret is kind of a default, and that's kind of as an adversary you would automatically think, oh, okay, someone will put something in here that says secret or hidden or something like that. Okay, well, right now it says okay, it's all done. So it's done loading up the modules that we need, and now what we need to do is we need to run the scan itself. So we're going to do wmap underscore run tac e, and then boom, it will do its thing now. So now if we zoom in, you see, zoom in, and it will run. And as you can see, what we learned already, that it's Apache 2.4.18 and it's Ubuntu. It also learns that it can, so for some websites, they accept certain type of methods to prevent cross-site scripting and all that stuff. But as we can see right here, this box actually allows get, head, post, and option. So it allows all these methods, which if we wanted to go to a different avenue that's honestly a lot more difficult, we could use those methods to be able to exploit the site. But we're going to go much more of an easier route than doing that. And then right now it's going to take through the file/directory testing, which This takes a lot longer because there's a lot of stuff that it needs to go through, but this is kind of where the meat of it is, where you kind of find more of where specific pages are, where other interesting stuff is at. So it's just gonna take a real minute. So
I have a quick question I wanted to ask.
yes.
Okay, so regarding like the get head and post, I guess like request methods, is it true that post it doesn't send information about your own computer when you're making that request, whereas I think get does?
I'm not exactly sure on that. But I think from like the sources that I've read, I think it believes so.
Mm-hmm. And so would that mean that I guess if you're trying to do an exploitation like through one of those methods, would post be preferred? That's my guess, just from that.
I would believe so. I would have to test it again on my own time to see that, but but yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
no problem. So as we can see, it founded that site secrets, and it also founded another site called icons. And it's still finding more stuff with secret. We're just gonna let that go through and finish. We're just gonna go through the site itself while it works on this thing. But as you can see, it finds other pages that are hidden on this site. But for right now, we're gonna go through this secret site because it just says my secret blog. Has basic things like hello world, all that other stuff. We'll go through and we see that there's a login page right here. Okay, so we're gonna click on that. Now we're on a login page for, as we can see, a WordPress site, WP login. WordPress is a platform that allows you to build websites much more easier than doing it from scratch. And with WordPress, you have to constantly update it to like be assured, because there's always new exploits coming around and there's always new things that make WordPress vulnerable. So you have to keep it updated and you have to keep it secure. Obviously, in this situation, they haven't kept it secure because we're able to identify it. And I believe that this WordPress version is pretty old, but we're still able to use it to exploit. Can I cancel this? Or it's not going. It's just going to keep going. There you go. Stopped. All right, because we're at the secret right now. So, with this, even they kind of have secrets open. So it's like, okay, is it okay to assume? Let's try to guess random passwords. Like, let's say admin password. That didn't go through. But what we did learn that username admin is incorrect. So that means that they do have an administrator account on here named admin, which is kind of default creds, which is kind of not really good at all. But would it be also safe to assume that their password is also admin? We could try that as well. And we see that we're able to get inside of the WordPress site. So let's say in a situation that it was an admin and it was some weird, just long or kind of secure password or a different account entirely. What we can do instead is, okay, if that's the case, we can use a completely, let's see where it is. We can use a specific program called Wps Scan. So with Wps Scan, it's a WordPress security scanner. And what it does is that it will go through and find a list of hosts on that WordPress server. And you can also add additional stuff to it, that it can do a brute force attack using a dictionary list of passwords that it can just go through and they can find the username and password if it's common enough. So let's just pretend a scenario that it was a lot more difficult than just saying admin on the username and password, right? We're going to use WPS Scan for this. So what we're going to do is that we're going to launch a new window, a new tab, right? We're going to do WP Scan. See if it loads up. Let me load up with an error because I didn't do anything. Yep. So what we're going to do, so we know from backtracking that the username was admin, right? So what we're gonna do Wp Scan, right? We're gonna do double tack usernames admin. We're also going to do double tack URL, HTTP, that website, right? And specifically the site where that login screen is. So we're going to do 192.168.217.129 secret and WP login.php. Now we're going to do passwords, which is going to be the whole text file where we have the dictionary list of passwords. An interesting thing to note that I actually did not learn this before until recently. WordPress. Kali itself actually has dictionary passwords already built into it. So you don't have to look on sites to try to find dictionaries. Anyway, it's already there. It's already installed. So, and where it's located at, user share word list. And it has many different ones, even has the classical ones like rocku.txt, which is extremely long. That's why it's wrapped under. But there's many different kinds of word lists that you can use. So you don't really have to look it up online. So we're gonna use, let's see. We're gonna use Metasploit stuff. Let's see, Metasploit. And they have a bunch of ones, but we're gonna use one of them. So we're gonna use passwords. And it says user share word lists Metasploit. And then we're gonna do HTTP default pass.txt. Then after that, we're going to do WP content, because with WordPress it has a content directory where that's where like the site and other stuff is at. And we're gonna do WP content directory dir HTTP. Again, it could be a little bit tedious. 217.129 secret WP content, right? And now what we're going to do is that this will do the passwords list under the WP content where that site, where the directory, where the site is for the login screen, right? And so we're going to attach it some threads to use. So like with programming, as you know, like with threads, we're doing multiple things at the same time. Instead of just going through one password, one word list at a time, we're going to go through multiple at a time. So what we're going to set 20, because since this password list is very long, we don't want to be here for that long. So we're going to do 20 threads, since that's a bit sufficient, and we're going to use it by force, because Wp Scan, it's pretty finicky when it's trying to first identify if WordPress is running on this website, which is kind of weird, but we're going to just tack on by force so it doesn't have to do that checking if it's running WordPress, because we obviously know that this website's running WordPress. So we're going to apply the force tack onto it. So we're going to press enter, and it's going to take a minute. Let's see. And see, if we did it one line by one line, it would have took an extremely long time, and we don't have that much time. So that's why we tacked on that 20 threads. It's gonna run its thing. Let's see. Okay, so valid combinations found. Username admin, password admin. So it find it that way as well, and we could have gotten that way through that way as well. So now we're in the system. How are we actually? So we're in the system, but we're not actually like in there as root. That's where we want to be at. We want to be as root, because with root access on Linux, you're able to control and manipulate anything. So with WordPress, an interesting thing with WordPress is that it always uses plugins. And as you can see, it has basic plugins that aren't really that useful security wise. So we're going to take advantage of this fact of WordPress using plugins, and we're going to introduce malicious plugins into this WordPress site through Metasploit. So let me pull up my terminal again. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to MSF console because we're going to try to introduce malicious plugins. And we're going to search for, since this is running WordPress, we're going to search for WP admin, right? And so we found an exploit. This is WP admin shell upload. So we're going to try to do is a lot more simpler, and what a lot of people want to go for with doing these kinds of things is reverse shells, because reverse shells you can do more. You're able to interact with the victim system rather than just doing rather than just like having some way in. Typically you want to do reverse shell type things. So we want to do that exploit, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to try to use that exploit. We do this by saying use exploit, or rather we could just copy and paste it in because that's pretty long. Don't really feel like doing that. Copy selected, copy paste. So exploit Unix web app WP admin shell upload, and we press enter. So in other cases, WordPress will typically not load payloads for you, but in our situation where we're using WP admin shell upload, it will load it for us because it already knows that since we're using WordPress WP admin, typically you're going to use this payload that provided for us, PHP meta interpreter reverse TCP. So it's nice that it did it for us, so we don't have to do it ourselves. So show options is showing options will let us know to have a clear view of what we need to do in order to execute this exploit. As you can see, many different things we have to do. WordPress already did this for us, so we don't need to worry about that right now, but we need to worry about setting up our module. So first what we need to do is we need to set up the password for the module, right? So we're going to type in to set up things for WordPress, and make sure when you set up that the name is matching to the T where it needs to be. If you set up and it's set up a little bit incorrect, or set up lowercase, it will not show and it will not set. So you have to set up, it's pretty case sensitive when it comes to those types of things. So we're going to say set password. We already know the password's admin, right? Password set admin. We know that we're going to set the username. We know the username is set as admin. And we're going to set up, so it says set up our host. So you already know the description of the target host that we're going to attack. So we're going to say set up our hosts. Let's see. And it says hosts, where you can attack multiple hosts on with one exploit if you want to. So that's why it's there. So we say 192.168.217.129. Okay, so we set that up. We set the username, password, and we need to set the target URL. So we're going to say set target URL, and URI, and then you say secret, and we say that's set up. So now we want to do options. You can say show options or just say simply options to see again that all the modules that you've put in are all set up. So now we need to do is we need to exploit. So now we need to type in exploit.
Your target URI is wrong.
Target UI. Oh, it didn't even take in. I think I typed it incorrectly. So let's see. Set target URI. And then we're going to set it as /secret. So options. So secret is up. Thank you. Now we're going to do exploit to launch the exploit itself. So now it's running. It's going to take a minute. You'll see, let's see right here. See, is it open? Meta interpreter will load up. just saying that it's successful. And as you see here, it says meta interpreter. So we successfully got in. We can see what user we are by typing in get UID, which it says that the username is www.data. So that means we're logged in as the user typically used for WordPress right now, but we want to get in as root. So we're kind of halfway there, but we're not there exactly yet. So we need to do one more thing to get root access. And so since we kind of already know that this site is misconfigured, we could kind of assume that maybe somewhere along the lines that there is some sort of misconfiguration here that we can use privilege escalation. So we can escalate our privilege from just being a WordPress user, because WordPress user doesn't really have all that much access to the box itself compared to root. We can find a way to escalate ourselves to root. So we're going to do this by uploading a script called Unix priv exec check. And it's from a site called PintestMonkey. So we're going to do in order to load this script called Unix priv exec check, we're going to type in upload user, then Unix priv exec check, right? And then we're going to put that in the temporary directory exec check. Boom. So now it's uploaded. So now since it's uploaded, we want to go inside the victim box, right? So in order to do that, we need to launch its shell to get inside. So we're going to type in shell. And you see, we're inside. In order to if I want to verify who I'm inside, I'll type in who am I, and I'll say that I'm www.data. So that means I'm in the system. I'm under the user. I want to change the directory to the temporary directory, and I want to tack in ls to list to see what's on there, and we'll see our file Unix priv exec check is there. So we want to add execution to our Unix priv exec check. So we're going to do that by saying chmod, which changes. Chmod is a command that's used to change permissions on files and folders. So we're going to use chmod. We're going to do +x because x, it's like adding or appending an execution to that file. And we're going to say Unix priv, in that file name Unix priv exec check. And you may also be wondering why I'm not just tabbing to autofill. And when you're going to the shell, it doesn't have that ability to tab into autofill. So you have to type it out completely inaccurately. So now I don't know if you can't even see that it looks executed because we don't have the complete shell in there. So now we want to execute the script Unix priv exec, and Unix priv exec has a configuration inside that requests a command called standard, which we need to put inside. So we need priv exec check, and we see standard, and we're using a pipe. Let's see, and then we're gonna say grep warning. See warning. Yep. And we'll execute. And it should go through. So it's gonna launch a bunch of unexpected errors because it's trying to find files. But boom, we found one. Alright, so etc password is a critical file, and it seems to be that we're able to access it as a WordPress user, which typically you're not supposed to. It should be more secure than that. So we're gonna take advantage of that, of what we know, and we're gonna go into, we're gonna exit out of the shell, and we're back into Metasploit, and we're going to download that specific file, etc password, right? So we're going to go to download / etc password, and we're going to go to root.pp1.password. So we're downloading the etc password from the victim box, and we're placing it in our root directory under our folder bp1 and right there. So we downloaded it and it's there. So now in another tab, we're going to use this tab. We're going to do we're going to log in as root. So we're going to do sudo tech s, and we're logged in as root. Change to our home directory, and let me see. As you can see, we see the folder bp1's there. So we're going to go to bp1, and we see the password file is there. So the reason why we downloaded the password file, as you can see, so I can cat it. It has a bunch of different, different users, and root's right over here. I've played with this before, so that's why it's there. I need to delete that later. But in order for us to have access to root, we need to change particularly this here. We need to change this. This is right here. This is a hash, and we need to change this hash to a password that we can use. So in order for us to do that, we're going to use OpenSSL. And OpenSSL, some of you may have known, it's a program that it involves a lot of cryptography and encryption. And with one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to use OpenSSL to create. We're going to create our own password to be able to log in. And what OpenSSL is going to do is going to make that password, that phrase, into a hash. And then we're going to put that hash over where root is, where that whole area with root is. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in OpenSSL. We're going to use something easy like a password. And we're going to add tac1. And then we're going to type in something like, so we're going to do the file password. We're typing +1, and we're going to use something simple like hacked 3D. And then we're going to press enter. So that is the hash that we came up with. So now we're going to copy it right here. Copy selected. And then we're going to see here, Nano. We're going to use a program that's called Nano. That's you can edit text. You can edit text and edit other files with Nano. It's kind of like some of you may have known like Word, but like for system files and other documents. So we're going to use Nano, and we're going to use Nano on the password file. So within that file, we have root, and we have this hash that we have no clue what that is. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy it. We're going to paste over it. Let's see. Copy. Or maybe it's a little bit different. Nope. Let me try it again. So what we're going to do is we're going to back out of here. And we're going to paste our newly password right here. We're going to exit, save, and we're going to save that right there. So now we change the, we put the hash inside there, put the hash inside the password where it is. And now we need to go back into Meta Interpreter, and we need to upload that modified password file that we have in our system to that victim box. So in order for us to do that, we need to type in upload root bp1 password, and then to that specific file etc password on that victim box. So now we upload it. It's uploaded. So now you go inside by typing in shell. We're inside again. You can see that. And we're going to make it easier for us. We're going to make it have it where we can kind of make it look like more comfortable, like with Linux, where we have like a identification of who we are and where we're located at. So we're going to do that by inserting some Python commands. We're typing in Python C import. It's going to be just a Python one-liner. So we're going to do Python C import. Let's see. Import pty. Pty. And then pty spawn parentheses c bin bash, and then them there. All right, so now we can see that I'm the user, www.data, and my computer name is vtcsec. Okay, so now we need to log in as root, right? So we're going to do su, which is short term for sudo, root tac, I think it's tac L. Yes, tac L. And then the password we're going to use is hacked. So we're going to do hacked. And then we're logged in as root. So we have root access to the system, and we've gone through from the WordPress route, where the web page route, right? So now, when you have access to the system, you can do exploitation, you can do more malicious stuff, and we're just going to stop from here. But we're also going to try to do another type of exploit using it through FTP. So since the box itself, we're going to exit out of here. We're going to cancel. See, he's going to exit out. But we're going to exit out of here, and this time we're going to exploit the box using FTP, which is file transfer protocol. We're going to exploit the file server side of the server. There you go. Exit. And then we're going to load a different exploit this time. So since this server is running FTP, which is pretty cool, we are going to search for an exploit called pro FTP. So we're going to do search. There you go. Search pro FTP. And we see that pro FTP right here. We're going to do this one. This one's a backdoor, which that's what we want. This route is actually a lot more quicker than the website one. So with this one, we have this one called Unix FTP Pro FTPD 133C backdoor. We're going to copy that, and we're going to ask to use this one. Paste. Use exploit Unix FTP Proto FTP 133C backdoor. We're going to use that. So now we're using it. And as you can see with our options, we have nothing on it. And we also don't have the payload on there either. So we need to add that as well. So we're going to say set payload, because there's a particular payload that we can use for Pro FTP in order to properly do another reverse shell like we did before. So we're going to do set payload cmd Unix reverse. Boom, set up. And as you can see in options, our payload is actually set up too. So now we're going to do the same thing we did before. So we're going to do set our hosts 192.168.217.129. Set. We're going to set our password. Or wait, we don't even need to set password. We need to set the lhost. So set lhosts 192.168. Actually, let's check our IP address to see again. See. Okay, so we're logging this Cali is IP. we see that our IP address is 192.168.217.128. So we're going to use that. So .128. Post options again. Oh, wait. Add S to that. And then we do options again. Boom, we're set up. So we verified that all these things are set up. We're going to exploit. And we should be here. Nope, still running. Wait a minute. Okay. We're root. So we now have root access to the system. It's a lot more quicker compared to the website one, but it's less intuitive. It's just a lot more simple. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What I wanted to show with you guys. Is there any other questions anyone has?
Yes, I have a question. So regarding like Meterpreter, I think is what it's called, and shell, what's the difference between the two? Because I noticed you had to explicitly type in shell to get inside the shell environment.
Meterpreter has its own commands. Like it will tell you from like, it's like a layer above, like going inside the shell from our side. It will like, it has extra stuff like you can download and you can upload stuff. Shell, you can't really do that. Shell, you would have to use a command in order to copy files over or copy files from or upload files. Meta Interpreter has that command where you can just download files from our side to theirs, or you can upload side from their side to us. So we're able to communicate with the box without actually doing anything to that box. And also, yeah, it's more of a kind of like not leaving traces on that box, like you've created or executed certain commands on there. So
got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yes. How did you know in this case that FTP was vulnerable to this exploit?
Particularly, there was how do I explain this?
Do you still the Nmap scan?
Yeah, like yes, from the Nmap scan, we see that it was FTP. But with this, I picked backdoor because I'm like, okay, kind of feel like it's vulnerable. I do want a backdoor to it so I can have access, and I do want shell. I want a shell access, so I just picked this one. That's my way to go with.
So you're saying like all FTP would be vulnerable to this, or is it because it's a specific version?
Specific version. It's a specific version. Not all FTP are vulnerable to this. This specific version is a bit more outdated.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions?
I have another one. So regarding, I think one of the exploits you used a reverse shell. So do you know, like, is there a simple explanation as to what a reverse shell is?
Let me
I guess maybe not. That's okay if it's not.
Reverse shells, I have a difficult time trying to explain it.
I guess the gist of it is that you can just run commands on a remote system because you get a callback to yours remotely.
Okay. That makes sense then. Thanks.
Yeah. So think of a reverse shell, like instead of saying SSHing into a machine, like if I had a server and I like used Telnet or SSH or some other remote access protocol to get in, that's a normal shell. That's like normal expected parameters. I've opened it up through a normal route from a host to a target. Reverse shell is the opposite of that. It's from target to host. So Cordell, what he was doing was he was navigating to the target machine, and then used an exploit to get the targeted, infected machine to send him a shell to send him access so he could type in his funny little commands.
Right. Okay, that makes sense then. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah.
Thank you, John. All right. I guess if there's not any more questions, I will give the floor to RJ. Here. I will give the floor to RJ now.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Cordell. Yeah, that one was really awesome. I learned some new things too with WordPress because I usually don't attack Linux stuff like much at all. All right. Cool. So, yeah, Cordell mostly went over all the Kali basics that you really need to know. So let me just log in. Yeah, so we're gonna use Metasploit too, but instead of like doing the startup, the Postgres, I'm just gonna click the button because I'm lazy, and it'll do all that work for you. CSE it's already started, it's already configured, yada yada. Cool. So while that loads, I just want to show you. I have a little Windows 7 VM here, and just for the sake of time, because I don't want to nmap my whole subnet. I'm just gonna get my IP, and so you can see it's the internal IP is 192.168.175.203. So we're gonna use an exploit called Eternal Blue. So Metasploit, like let's just say you're trying to search for something, just use the search command and search for Eternal Blue, and bam, I see the exploit right here. You also got a nice little scanner right here if you want to see if something is vulnerable to it, but it takes time. So we're gonna use this one. Use exploit Windows SMB MS7 010 010 Eternal Blue. So to use it, just use and paste in the full thing. Cool. So let's see what options we got. And just a little gist to this. This is released by I think the Shadow Brokers, and I think it was used by the NSA at one point. And it attacks like a super old Windows protocol that is disabled now in Windows 8 and Windows 10. And yeah, it's like it was used for file share. Dr. O'Leary, I think, knows the exact age of it. It's like something like 30 years old, I want to say. I could be wrong. And yeah, it's used for file share. All right. So now that we got our exploit module ready, let's just set some parameters. So we need the remote host, which is this machine, the .203, the Windows 7 that we're attacking. So let's just set the R host to that IP. Yeah, so this is a operating system exploit and not a service like a web server like Cordell did. So Windows stuff is brutally attacked by OS exploits and service as well. Cool. So now we set our remote host. And now we also need to set our payload. This way we can upload a reverse shell to the system. So let's set payload Windows x80 64 architecture interpreter, and we want to do a reverse TCP shell. So yeah, cool. And now let's run this. Oh, I forgot to set the L host, which is just the IP of our Kali machine that's going to be receiving the callback. So that's this address right here. I just ran ifconfig to see my IP configuration. Cool. So now let's set the L host. Cool. And now you can see it's trying to connect to the box. So this exploit on Metasploit sometimes is funky. Like I did a test run yesterday and I got a blue screen. Yeah, so now it's running this simple exploit. And while we do that, let's get our post exploitation ready. So this way we can actually get back inside the box. Because after we get in, let's just say if someone restarts the Windows 7, yeah. So the buffer overflow here. So it killed the machine. So we're just gonna have to restart it. And that's why sometimes when you're on Eternal Blue, you got to do it a couple times. But let's get Empire ready. So I downloaded a program called Empire, PowerShell Empire, written in Python and PowerShell. And one of our students is actually a contributor. His name is Jared, and he was really awesome on Windows team. So yeah, no exploit was created because we blue screened our Windows system. So let's just boot it back up. And I'm just going to start up Empire. Just by running the shell script, start it up. Takes a bit. Yeah, okay. Windows is just starting up again. There we go. Welcome to the Empire. Cool. So now we have modules. This is really similar to Metasploit. So modules is where you can specify like the type of exploit or post exploitation you want to use. Listeners is like the reverse shells where you can set your callback, and agents are computers that you have your shells on. And the general gist of thing. So let's access our listeners menu. So I have one right there. That was for your test system. And now let's create our own listener. So I just want to use a basic HTTP one. So that's what we're going to do here. And then if you need help, you just run the help button option. So now let's just set a callback port so we can get the remote connection where we want to go through. So just HTTP port 8080. Cool. So now we just got to specify the host machine, which is our Kali machine. So let me just copy our IP again. Cool. So now we're going to set our host to be this IP using our new listening port for remote connections at port 8080. Cool. So that's our host now. So now let's actually just create our listener. Just type in execute. And address already in use. I'll just use 8081. Probably wants me to kill my other listener. Sorry about that. Anyway, let's get in the machine now that it's booted back up. So let's just run Eternal Blue again. Hopefully it doesn't crash our system. While we get our post-exploitation ready. So listeners, help. And let's just kill our current listener. Cool. So now if we go back, yeah, no listener is active. So let's just recreate it again. So use listener, HTTP. Cool. Now let's set our port to 8080 since it shouldn't be used anymore. Now let's set the host to our IP again. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, set host IP port for callbacks. Now let's run it. There we go. Yeah. So the listener successfully started. That's awesome. That's what we want. So now let's just go back. Let's check how this is going. We crash Windows again. Let's check something. There we go. It's back. Cool. Yes, as you can see, it's not the most reliable one, but this is certainly the most well-known. See it right there. It's already having trouble getting the SMB1 connection. Probably just because we booted back up. There we go, yeah. So it just took a little bit. And now that our listener started, we need to open it. Well, actually, so if you list it, you can see our current listener is active. So now that we have our listener made, let's just get ready to connect our shell to our exploit so we can get it through. So it's currently going through. Killed it again. Actually, Dr. O'Leary, do you think I need to put more resources on the Windows 7 machine to stop it from getting killed by eBlue?
It's called Eternal Blue for this exact reason. I mean, it's always been unstable.
Yeah. Oh, 3 times. This is a new record for me. I usually get it on the 3rd. But that's okay. because we still gotta get our listener going. So let's work on our listener since Windows 7's dying. So let's use our HTTP listener again, just so we can modify some settings. Now let's set the callback time. So it calls back to our machine every 1 second. Oops. I spelled delay wrong. Yeah, there we go. And now that we did that, let's just execute it again. Okay. Wants me to kill it. That's fine though. It already has a decent callback time. I think the default's like 5 seconds. So let's go back. Let's use Stager. And then, yeah, we want this to launch in a bat file. Launcher.bat. There we go. Cool. So this will create the shell as a bat file that we just get. And now we're just going to set it to the listener we made, which is just our HTTP listener. And now let's generate the reverse shell file. So it's just ntemp launcher.bat. Yeah. Oh, my autocomplete's not working. Oh, can't have it in the PowerShell Empire menu. There you go. Yeah, I don't have a lot of RAM, so it's just taking forever to load. All right. So Mr. Windows 7 is back. Run our exploit for the 4th time. Hopefully it doesn't kill it. And we're going to do then is once we get it open, we're going to copy in our reverse shell and then work on getting our persistence in. So this generates the code that'll generate the callback to the machine. And all you got to do is copy and paste this in, which you'll see once it doesn't die. All right, I'm going to put more resources to this VM. Sorry about it keep getting killed. It's my dog freaking out. Skip 4.
So is this also a vulnerability on like older versions of Windows Server too?
Yep, like Windows Server 2008 and below. That'll die to this if
wow.
SMB is working. It's pretty easy to prevent because you just disable SMB1 and use one of the newer versions.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
No problem. Yeah, I think this was used on. Sorry, my dog's freaking out. On the Baltimore ransomware attack. Cordo, I believe you had to clean that up too, right?
Oh, that's crazy.
So I just want to get this launcher in here because the post-exploitation part's fun. All right, cool. Finally load it back up. Let's hope we can handle. Okay, yeah, just some time. Okay. All right. I'm not sure why it's dying. All right, yeah, so anyway, you do have to try this a couple times. This might just be the VM. Not too sure why it's doing that. But usually it'll just send you into a interpreter shell. And once you get into the interpreter shell, you just type in CMD to open a command prompt. and then you just copy this in, and then from Empire, you just own the machine. But I don't want to eat any more of your guys' time since the Windows just keeps dying. But if we get our prox mocks up, I could probably get this working. Cool. Any questions though? Cool. Also, yeah, so Empire, which is my post-exploitation agent, if you're downloading the newer versions of Kali, there's going to be some Python issues. So I posted a link before. You just got to do a ton of stuff now because Empire is no longer continued, so it's not supported with Python 3.
Okay. Oop, I might be wrong. Okay. Thank you so much, RJ.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
I have a question actually.
Sure.
So is Empire just used for post-exploitation on Windows to like generate payloads, I guess, or something?
Yeah, you get way more flexibility because it's just specifically designed for like the older Windows host. And since it's in PowerShell, it's usually much harder to detect once it's on the system.
All right, thank you.
No problem. But yeah, it's cool. Those basic interpreter scanners won't work on your reverse shell, and it has like built-in modules for persistence. So you could just like run like create a scheduled task, so your shell will survive reboots, and you can even put a WMI persistence in there, and it does it very easily, which is usually kind of a pain. It's awesome. It's my favorite post exploitation for Windows, and Puppy is my next project.
All right. If there's any more questions before we do our sign off. Okay. Well, I would like to thank you everyone again for coming, especially people that stick around. Thank you so much. It was a very interesting day. Learned a lot of new things, especially with exploitation. And thank you again, RJ, for your presentation. It's really awesome.
Thank you. Sorry the exploit wasn't going through. Some nuts kept dying.
It's fine. Thank you, everyone. I think this is it. Yeah, call the meeting off. This meeting is done. Thank you guys for coming. This was a very fun day. Exploitations are always fun, and very stressful because when things don't work, it's hilarious. But thank you all for coming. I will stick around for stick around if anyone has any more questions, but you guys can go if you want to.
I've got one more question actually.
Okay.
What is the name of the service that Eternal Blue exploits again?
SMB1.
Now is that enabled by default on like the older versions of Windows, like 7?
Yeah, and it also depends on like service patches because a lot of the newer ones fix it, but those ISOs are generally harder to get.
So just by default, it's already active. So almost all Windows 7 machines could be compromised if they don't have the service patches.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Dr. Larry, the service patch 3 for Windows 7, was that the fix for it?
I forget exactly which one, but yeah, they patched this one real bad.
Okay.
Now,
Then.
RJ asked a note in chat about when are we getting a new Proxmox? Right, RJ?
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da! There it is.
Oh, awesome.
Not a Proxmox. This is right now we have 3 Proxmox systems built together in a cluster.
Oh wow.
The 4th one is supposed to arrive later this week. Notice some of the VMs. Yeah, that's right. We got Android running on it.
Ooh, big
We're
flex.
building on- Oh no, we got a lot of stuff coming for you. You're saying there's a bank? Yeah, there's a bank. We've got security onion systems that we're building up for folks. We are setting up some LDAP for some local testing. In fact, if you heard me typing in the background while you guys were talking, that's what I was literally doing moments ago. Was continuing to test out the LDAP system. And so since none of the folks who are part of this little party are here, let me announce what's going to happen. We have been working on rebuilding this environment for the case studies class. We've been working on it since about June, and you can see we've got a lot of stuff built. We are going to run a multi-school live competition on this Proxmox environment in November or December. We're still building it up. We're probably about another couple of weeks away from actually making the sort of formal public announcements. But there's been a group of us that have been trying to get all the back end stuff wired together and working.
This is awesome. For the templates, are you just using stuff like Ansible or like some PXE boot stuff, or?
Say that again?
So for like the templates, are you just using Ansible, or are you just like cloning, changing like
We're using Terraform.
Oh, nice.
So it's not quite so clear that Terraform is the right tool for the job. What we've been working on in the short term, because these are on multiple servers and we don't want you guys to accidentally hack Campus or DISA or something like that, at least not accidentally. We're setting up some firewalls between all of the systems. So we're setting up VPN tunnels. So all of the different hosts, let's see, you can see there's these pfSense boxes on each one. So all of the systems that the students will be working on are behind that pfSense firewall. And we've got VPN tunnels connecting the various pfSense boxes together. And I've got one team that's working on just finishing up the pfSense boxes and then configuring the egress filtering the way I want it. I've got another group that's working on when we go for the class for the spring. So those of you who know about the class, historically it has been, we all go into 405, we work for a couple of weeks, we have an exercise. John Feely comes down with all of his buddies and then hacks everybody. Then you guys write a report, and then we do that 3 times. Okay, that's kind of cool. We're not doing that. What we will be doing this spring is something slightly more sophisticated. You're going to walk in on day 1. There will be a fully complete network sitting there in front of you. You will be the IT staff that's replacing the IT staff that just got fired. You have to keep that network up for 15 weeks. It will run live. It will run 24/7 for the entire semester. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Red Team will be able to hack you anytime they feel the urge. You'll be able to attack each other anytime they feel the urge. And so we're rebuilding the scoring system because I don't want students thinking they have to stay up at 3 o'clock in the morning every night, making sure that their service checks are up. So we're rebuilding how the scoring is working. So I've got another student who's working on, if you look over on the side, you can see a whole bunch of Nagios test systems. So someone's rebuilding a whole Nagios infrastructure for me. So it's going to be cool.
Are the teams going to be like countries or?
The teams will be the plan right now is we're going to play the teams will basically be nations.
I love that. I can't wait. Sounds really, really fun.
Yeah. We're probably going to add some I don't know if John's listening up, but I think he'll appreciate this. Some rules of engagement for students v students. So you're not going to be able to just go on to another team and just reformat the drive. So anytime you want to do some offense, you're going to have to say, okay, I want to do this offense against this target with this goal. And you're going to have to get permission before you can just cut loose. Just like in the real world.
All right, that sounds awesome. I'm actually very excited.
Oh,
Yeah,
When
we've
did
been
you-
working on it since about June.
Mm.
So we're about 2.5 months, 3 months into our rebuild. So
And you
we
said
got
it's-
plans for you.
You said this competition is happening November/December.
So the goal for my group that's doing the rebuild is to have everything built by November 1, and then I want to test it. And so once everything's tested, I figure the best way to test it, I'm not a simple tester, right? You put it on the slab and you slap a lightning bolt through it and see if it gets up and walks, right? So that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
And I see John writing in the chat. Oh, no sudo rmrf. Okay, yeah, there is that. On the other end, I've got something cooler than that. So how are we going to score this? Effectively, each time your service checks succeed, you're going to get some credits, some ducats, some money. Once you get enough money, you're going to get a file which you can host on your system, right? If you've got a file and more money, you can get the next file and more money and then the next file. And so you're going to have to not only keep your services up, you have to keep these files on your system, right? So each team is going to have its very, very own bank account, okay? So John, here's my goal for red team. Take all their money. So there is going to be a bank account for red team. And so if you decide to get onto someone's system and hold it for ransom, you can empty their bank accounts. Well, you can tell them they have to empty their bank accounts and give you all their money.
Or could you just take the money just outright?
No, the bank itself will be outside of scope. We spent a fair amount of time. This is a custom web app that one of the students who took the class last spring wrote for me. I'm optimistic that it will stand up against quick and dirty attacks, but it's all custom PHP MySQL code. I mean, the man built it literally from scratch. And so I don't want to put that in scope. At least not on purpose, anyway.
It's PHP. He must be really, really smart. It's really hard to write in.
No, it's not so bad.
Eh. Can you
It was a good summer intern project. And he's the one who's building out the security onion suite. So all of your systems will log, well, at least initially, they will log to one security onion. But just remember the premise, you guys are being hired because the previous IT staff got fired for incompetence. We've got plans.
So for the different groups or teams, will it be per school or will it be like X members per team? You have to be sponsored by a school.
For the practice exercise, for the beta test, as it were, we are definitely going to invite Wilmington, because some of the folks who are building this up have worked with Wilmington in the past and they've got a good working relationship. Whether we invite other schools or not will depend on how finished we are, right? So the idea is that we would run this every fall, but we're literally building all of these systems as we go. Right. So, for example, to keep you guys from blowing up the campus network, we're going to be setting up squid proxies for all of the outbound web traffic. And to use the proxy, you're going to have to authenticate. The thing you're going to have to authenticate to is this thing, which, if you notice, the name of it is Second LDAP Test, because it's not quite working yet. I've been working on it last weekend and this weekend. So how close, this might not be ready for the public, but we've got good working relationships with the Wilmington folks. We'll at least have them. But this will be how we figure out who gets to play on the CCDC team.
I really love this. Are you adding a storefront or anything like you can purchase other VMs or like spend all your money to revert to a snapshot or?
So we haven't talked about reverting to snapshots yet, but basically the premise is, think of this like if you ever played the game of Civilization.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so to progress, you need to get your beakers or your credits or whatever, and then you can research a particular technology. Insofar as we're concerned, technologies are just going to be files, right? So you can't get to level 2 unless you have both the money and the file from level 1 on your system. You can get money by keeping your services up. But let's suppose you're bad at keeping your services up. Well, then just go steal the level 2 file from RJ's team. You see how it's going to work now?
Yeah, that sounds like
awesome.
a lot of fun.
You see, so you can get technologies or levels or whatever we're calling them by keeping your systems up, and then being able to get the money and progress normally, or you can steal it from your fellow students.
Oh, Doctor, I gotta change.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we've been working on it all summer.
So, Dr. Larry, the physical Palo, I got that to have the same version we had for CCDC this year, and Andrew's been helping me like all night set up my Palo VM. It was
Right.
a pain to get the management on my home network because like the NICs. But yeah, so we have a fully licensed one with like the newest version.
Good.
Yeah, so if we actually have like really good practice.
Good.
And then the old one. So and also, I'm not sure if you saw my email. I messaged Kaza too about doing the Palo Academy thing, because then we would get access to like free ISOs.
I'm not worried about it. You know, if we can pull this live exercise off like we're thinking with PSense, the Palos aren't that different. I mean, the interface is different, but the ideas are basically the same.
Yeah, but the next gen stuff has a ton of extra features. I'm just worried because if they sponsor, then we're probably gonna have to use them.
No, look. I want us to qualify for the regionals. I don't think we're going to win the regionals. Right? I don't know if you saw the score last year, but last year UMBC beat Virginia. For the first time, because Virginia had won the previous 2 years. In fact, Virginia was the defending national champions, and UMBC beat them in the regionals.
Yeah.
And then, because they had an odd number of teams, they decided to let the second place teams from every region compete again. Virginia won the B bracket, was invited to nationals, and won nationals again for the third time.
Yeah, stiff competition.
Yeah, so my goal is to get us ready. I want us in those finals. I want us in the regional finals. right? And so I'm not worried about Palo Alto user interfaces, honestly, right now. I did see in the, what did you guys call it? Introductions channel. There's a couple of folks with serious experience that we want on the team, right? A couple of grad students in particular. So if they're full time, I want to get them.
We're allowed to have 2 grad students, right? That's the rule.
We're only allowed 2 grad students, right?
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for coming. I think that's it for our meeting today. I don't think anyone has any more questions. Thank you again, Mr. O'Leary. That was actually pretty awesome. It got me even more excited for this competition.
Well, I keep seeing RJ going, where's the Proxmox? Where's the Proxmox? I'm going, okay, I got to show them. We've been working. We got piles of stuff. We got systems. We got tests.
Okay.
We got a lot of cool stuff planned for all y'all.
You have to shut me up.
Oh, no, but come on. It's like, hey, guess what? This is all the stuff we bought for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And we're just putting it back in the closet now. You ain't getting it till Christmas.
Wow. I'm gonna be a little bit spoiled and kind of want to see it in action. Okay. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. I think I'm going to head out.
Yeah, I'm gonna get breakfast.
All right, thanks all. I'm heading out too.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.